Hey Kings, welcome back to Acquaint by Aaron. My name is Aaron, and on this channel, I endeavor to help men get better acquainted with themselves as I go on my own journey of discovering who I am. I don't know about you, but the more connected it is we are today digitally as a species, the more isolated it is I feel we've become. These last 2 years have not helped either, with most countries going into some form of movement restriction within cities. And in today's video, I want to address my own experience dealing with loneliness, not just as a man, but as someone of Asian upbringing. For the most part, I've never considered myself to be a lonely person, but two things happened in 2021 that completely changed everything for me. In January this year, I decided to log out of all social media accounts, and two is the birth of my daughter in August this year. I'm generally a pretty happy person, but for one reason or another, I felt this sense of loneliness so much so, I think during the second week of my daughter's birth, I completely broke down and I just felt like this overwhelming sense of feeling alone. Statistics today show that 33% of adults experience this feeling of loneliness worldwide. And this is quite an alarming number, which means that 1 in every 3 adults go through this experience of feeling lonely. And I came across this interesting article, which I will link in the description below, which explains about how men in America are going through their own epidemic of dealing with loneliness as adult men. And statistics show that up to 47% of Malaysians share that they have experienced this sense of feeling lonely. So why has it come to this? As I was reflecting and thinking back about why I felt lonely, I felt that there were 3 distinct factors that contributed to me dealing with this feeling of being alone. One of the reasons why it is I feel I had come to this point where I had a complete breakdown, feeling just so alone and isolated, is I feel that as a man, loneliness is just not a topic that I would want to address. And while it is normal for me at work to admit that there were certain things that I don't know, and at work we're continuously learning and growing to become better, when it came to emotional or more personal subjects like loneliness and with friendship, it is just not a topic that I'm generally comfortable talking about. And I think in my mind I had convinced myself if I reach a certain point of success, then this sense of loneliness or this entire feeling that I was feeling would just fade away. Another factor that added to all of this is that I grew up in a conservative Asian family, and in Asian families a lot of touchy emotional subjects are just not talked about or brought up in the dinner table. I think being from a Asian home, a lot of times topics like friendship, building and fostering relationships are just things that you were not thought of, or neither was it talked about. And not just that, I don't think it was modeled well after. As a matter of fact, I can't recall seeing my mom or my dad having very healthy long-term friendships. And I think I just came to a point where I believe that the older that you grow or the more you go into your adulthood, it's just a fact of life that you are a bit more isolated. Your family becomes your main priority, and friends and relationships outside of your marriage or outside of your family, it just becomes a much smaller priority. And I think that another factor that added to it all is, as I was growing up, I started to see relationships as transitional and transactional. One event in particular sort of grained this sort of mindset in me. So when I was in my teens to my early 20s, a large part of my social circle was made up of my friends from church. So I attended the same church from the time I was age 18 all the way till the time I was roughly age 25. And when I was 25 years old and finally decided that, hey, maybe it's time for me to leave and explore maybe a different church to go to, almost overnight I realized that all of my friends from that church had decided that we're no longer friends. And as I sat down and I analyzed this whole situation, I sort of came to this space in my life where I kind of accepted that proximity and frequency aided in how a relationship was built. The closer that you are physically, the more events that you attend to on a frequent basis, the higher the chances are you'd have to meet these people. And the moment that these events are no longer existed and you take that out of the factor of the relationship, more often than not, that relationship just ends. So I came to this point where I accepted this as truth. It's been about 2 months now since my daughter was born, and I just wanted to quickly share 3 things that I did differently that had helped me deal with my own sense of loneliness. Number 1, you see, you cannot run away or escape from the fact that the people that you interact with on a daily basis will some way, shape or form influence who you are today. So prior to even engaging or establishing a relationship with other adults, I think it's equally as important to take time to vet through these people. What are their lifestyles like? What are activities that they engage in? Do these activities align with who I am as a person, my own personal beliefs, my own personal sense of fulfillment? And only when you decide if yes, there's a certain group of people that I do want to associate myself with, the activities that they take part of will be positively impactful to who I am as a person, to my own mindset and to my entire well-being. Because the truth is, what's worse than feeling alone is getting into relationship or getting into friendship with people that make you feel less than you are. Because then not only do you feel alone, you would constantly compare yourself to the social status of these different people that you're interacting with, and that will leave you feeling worse than you were before. The second thing that really helped is to really look through your circle. Kings, I want you to know that whether you like it or not, or whether you want to admit it or not, you have people in your life that truly do care about you. If you're not too sure, why don't you just take up a notepad and write down the names of people that you feel would be affected if you were just to drop dead tomorrow. Somehow or rather, they could be friends, they could be relatives, they could even be family members. What you would realize is there are a handful of people that truly care about you in this world. And in fact, that was what I had to do. In this point where I was feeling so alone, I just didn't know who to reach out to. I did have friends, but I think I was always also in this mindset that they probably have better things to do than to deal with me or to talk about like how I was feeling. But when I really sat down and I thought about it, to me, I knew that if there was anything that would happen in this world, my brother does care for me. I knew that no matter how tough it is, situations I've been in a relationship with my wife over the last 9 years, and I can express exactly how I feel with her. And I do have a handful of men that are around me that are ambitious as well, that if I were to be open and share with them these feelings that I was going through, they would probably listen to me and just encourage me or just be there with me. And it is the same for you, men, kings. Look through your circle, find out 2 to 3 high value individuals or 2 to 3 people that you feel could really add value to your life or really care about you, and engage them in friendship. Which leads me to my third and final point, which is I feel that as men, the more masculine we become, I feel that it is okay if we were to feel the emotions that we are going through and address it with a certain sense of vulnerability. You see, I feel that relationships can only flourish and grow out of a baseline of truth. A lot of times, if relationships are built on a lie or they're built on a facade, those friendships or those relationships can never truly go deep. And what I had to do was to really accept the fact that I felt lonely and be vulnerable enough to reach out to different people in my life to tell them that, hey, I was feeling lonely. In fact, I just want to highlight to you a text message thread I had with my friend Paul over here. It was extremely hard to do, but I just had to text him and say, hey Paul, you know, I feel lonely. Would you be there for me if I just needed someone to talk to? More often than not, you would realize that you have people that truly care about you. And while it's hard to do as a man, I think it's time for us to break out of this stigma where men are not in touch with their emotions, and for us to really come to a point where we can address our feelings head on. And as we bring this video to a conclusion, Kings, I just want you to know that it's alright if you're feeling lonely. Just know that it's not a permanent situation, nor it is normal for men to go through loneliness. It's just something that we just need to learn to express and figure out. Do drop a comment below if you agree with some of the thoughts that I've expressed, or if you have personally experienced feeling lonely. Thank you so much again, Kings, for tuning into this channel, and I hope that this video has brought you some value about just really being real and vulnerable about going through loneliness, and maybe some ideas of how we as men can help each other, support each other, chart our way out of this epidemic of loneliness.